Okay, so far we've been talking about distinguishing between employees and independent contractors, those two categories. There is one final category. I'm not going to say it's in the middle, but it kind of seems that way, and that has to do with contingent employment. So what do we do about contingent or temporary workers? Are they employees? Are they independent contractors? Do they get the rights of employees? Do they get no rights like independent contractors? What do we do about contingent or temporary workers? Now, when we talk about contingent workers, sometimes you hear them called temporary or sporadic or even permatemp. And a contingent worker is one whose job is in any way different from the norm of full-time 40-hour-a-week employment. So typically we think of them as temporary workers, but it could also be part-time workers. All of them fall within this umbrella of a contingent worker. And the contingent worker is the new norm. The contingent workforce is by far the fastest growing segment of the national workforce, with almost 75% of employers using them. They're hiring people on a part-time basis as needed for a particular project. So 75% of employers now using contingent workers. And for the workforce, the temporary workforce now makes up 26% of American workers. So 20% of Americans who are employed are doing temporary, sporadic, part-time jobs. You could have two 20-hour-a-week jobs joined together and be working 40 hours a week, but you're still not a full-time employee. You're still a contingent employee. So this is really going to be the new norm, and it will be I'll be curious to see what happens in the future when we have built a system around this norm of 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week employment, and yet now we're moving into a world where that's not going to be the norm anymore. What do we do when over half our workforce is not part of that same full-time employment status? Now, obviously, for employers, there are benefits to hiring contingent workers. Financial incentives weigh on the side of using contingent workers, and both in flexibility and cost savings. With contingent workers, we can expand or contract our workforces as we need. We have a new order, new product, we bring it in, we can temporarily expand our product, and then contract them when we don't need it. We hire holiday workers, we terminate them when the holiday is over. So for an employer, there's certainly benefits to hiring contingent workers. We also may achieve reduced labor costs through lower hourly wages and the absence of benefits, because we're not paying benefits to these people. That's going to save us money. We may be able to pay people a less of a rate, temporary workers, contingent workers, than we pay our normal full-time workers. So definitely a cost savings there for employers. Employers find that the use of contingent workers allows them flexibility, accommodates overtime, accommodates one-time projects, prevents a succession of expensive hires. When you hire someone, we talked before, you got a 30% cost on top of the salary or the wage that you're paying that person. And we can reduce that by using contingent workers. So I think we're going to see this field continue to expand. Now, what you should know, though, is that contingent employees will still receive protection from employment laws. So things like being free from discrimination, they will be protected. The right to minimum wage, the right to payment of overtime. Even though they are contingent employees, they still receive that protection. And of course, as we said, the contingent workforce could include part-time workers, independent contractors, contract employees, leased employees, and direct hires. So if they're an employee, if they're construed as an employee, they are going to receive protection from employment laws, even though they are not part of the normal 40-hour-a-week workforce. Unfortunately, temporary workers, permatemps, contract workers have some obstacles when we talk about what can they look forward to. Well, no health insurance. Usually part-time employees or temporary employees are not given the opportunity to participate in an employer insurance plan. No sick days, of course. If you don't work, you don't get paid. No paid vacation, no retirement plan, no 401k or pension plan. No severance pay if you get terminated for whatever reason. Certainly the chance of being excluded from corporate culture. When we talk about employers, employees, and independent contractors, remember that Microsoft case where the workers were working side by side with Microsoft employees, Microsoft independent contractors, did the same work in the same facility, both sharing a Microsoft email address. Well, when those workers were considered employees, that sent a signal to employers that they want to differentiate between their employees and their independent contractors. And so one of the ways we do that is excluding people from corporate culture. You know, you don't get invited to the birthday parties or the Christmas party or the picnic lunch. So all those could happen to temporary workers. And of course, unfortunately, this results in higher rates of depression and anxiety. Anxiety is a huge problem. Even though you're employed, you know that it's only temporary. It's only for a certain limited amount of time. And so there's a lot of anxiety in these fields.